Hello there and welcome back to another review. So I thought we'd crack on with some more Yuen Woo-ping movies, and today we're going to be looking at this movie here, Legend of a Fighter. Now I will say, I'm just going to put it out there, absolutely love Legend of a Fighter, but to me personally it isn't necessarily as I would say as solid or as good as some of like Yuen Woo-ping's other films in terms of sort of his early work, when you're talking about movies like in the vein of Miracle Fighters, Drunken Tai Chi, Buddhist Fist, but at the same time take nothing away from Legend of a Fighter. There's still loads to be enjoyed here. I know there's lots of you out there who love this movie, and yes, it's very solid. Leung is like superb as always. Yasuaki Kurata puts in like an amazing performance. The fight scenes, as you would expect from the Yuen clan, are on point. The themes and the plot threads here are very engaging about rising to the challenge if the spirit is willing. And that sense of national pride are all prevalent here. But it's interesting, Legend of the Fighter, because I know it does have its fans, and I know it's highly regarded, and people do love this movie, and rightly so. But to me, personally, it's just not as... It probably... When I say it's not necessarily as entertaining, what I mean by that is it just maybe wouldn't be in my top 3 Yuen Woo-ping movies, but that is not trying to take anything away from Legend of a Fighter. Made back in 1982, and when I say the film is interesting, is that like with the Buddhist Fist and like with Miracle Fighters, this is very much a Yuen family film. To that end, I mean, there was no Donnie Yen, there was no Sammo Hung, there was no Jackie Chan. This is very much, you could say, Yuen Woo-ping and his clan sort of doing their thing, but at the same time it's more of a serious movie. It's them almost taking on sort of an autobiographical kung fu movie, that it's serious, it has important themes, but it's still putting that trademark flair into their proceedings and the fight sequences. And it really is a testament to Brian Leung that despite, no formal kung fu training, how many amazing kung fu directors and stars wanted him in their movies. Sammo Hung, of course, and Yuen Woo-ping obviously loved working with the guy. It is, of course, based on the story of Hu Yanxia, or Fok Yun Gap in Cantonese, who is most widely known as like Bruce Lee's character's master, who gets killed in Fist of Fury. Jet Li even playing him in the movie Fearless by Ronnie Yu. And for those of you who don't know, he was very much like a real guy and a real-life martial artist who founded the Chin Woo Association. I believe passed away around... I want to say 1910, but I could be completely wrong. But it's very much a real life guy, and I say this is sort of the whole, like the characters, sort of the whole Fist of Legend, Fist of Legend and Fist of Fury sort of is based on. Of course, Kurata was in Fist of Legend with Jet Li, which follows the same story as Fist of Fury. Now, why is this film interesting? Why is there a lot to say about this? I mean, this is no Drunken Master, make no mistake about that. This is not a Snake and Eagle Shadow. This is not a Magnificent Butcher. Well, when I say it's interesting, for as good as it is, and any film done by Yuen Woo-ping is always, for the most part, going to be an exceptional kung fu movie. But unfortunately, I feel this film is let down, and I never thought I'd say this sometimes about kung fu movies, but I think what lets this film down is by its production. In that I think the sets by and large are quite poor and bland, and the set pieces just don't pop and stand out as much as they did in sort of other notable Yuen Woo-ping vehicles. That isn't to say this isn't a great movie. I'm not bashing Legend of a Fighter, but in terms of like production and sets, and like I say, the choreography is fine. It's great. It's Yuen Woo-ping doing his thing, but the sets are very quite poor. I think they're quite bland. The cinematography is lacking in certain places too, and sometimes it's like some of the fights are just shot on a handheld shaky cam for some reason. Not all the time, but you do get that vibe a little bit here and there. It's still a great movie with great story and great fights, but I just think it's lacking that certain bit. The only thing I can say, to me personally, is that it's almost like it's lacking that bit of Yuen magic, right? It's lacking that tiny bit of Yuen Woo-ping magic, that little sparkle that just makes it great, that makes it must see, But at the same time, I know people adore this movie. It's still a fantastic film, make no mistake. I just think in terms of the execution, it's just it's just lacking here and there in certain places. But this, at the same time, saying that, this is a different movie completely. This is not, like I say, a miracle fighter's a drunken Tai Chi. This is not like, say, Yuen Woo-ping being silly like he usually is with a lot of these movies. This is very much a serious story with a sense of morals, where, like I mentioned, with a sense of pride and doing things for your country and things like that. So carrying on with the movie, we learn through some stock footage of China's previous turmoil that Yuen was born. We meet Phillip as his father, whose special move is to be able to crack eggs in a glass just by hitting the top of the glass. Then we have this guy who's pretending to be a cook, turns out to be the yellow tiger of Shantung, I think he calls himself. And he comes to take on the school and the Ko family style. Ko beats the guy, no problem, and his son wants to learn Kung Fu, and he's like, I will teach you if you move my hand. And like his father keeps on making a point that he does not teach weak men, right? And he would much rather sort of his own son work hard to study academically. And it's always the same, isn't it? Usually in a lot of Kung Fu movies, the dad doesn't want to teach them at all. Even though they're a practitioner in Kung Fu, or they're a martial artist, or they're a master of their style, they have no desire to teach their son. At this point, Fok Yun Gap is played by Yat-chor, who was the first time I watched it many moons ago, I thought it was like he was going to be the lead. And I remember when I first saw it, way back when, and I thought, well, when's is Leung Yan in this vehicle? Like, I thought he was the lead, because like I say, up to this point you had Yat-chor as the lead, and I thought, so when does like Leung Yan come into it? So I was unaware, obviously, at the time, that Wu-ping is actually casting two actors as the same guy, older and younger. And you really do feel for the guy that in his father's eyes, he is just not worthy of learning this family style. So he runs into the world, like he runs into like the forest and the world and whatever, because he's so upset, and he's frolicking his hands around. Some thugs come to have a go at him, and he's saved by Kurata, playing Ching Ho-san, I think is his name in this, who has been sort of invited as his teacher to teach Yuen Yat-chor. And I love how Ko is so protective of his family style. Like, this guy is so protective, even going so far as to shove a spear in like his new teacher's face to make sure that he can't fight. Phillip Ko in loads of movies, a lot of the Shaw brothers, he's in Sammo Hung's as well. He's one of these guys, you'll see him in more Kung Fu movies than you can count. Usually as a villain, by and large, but never usually sort of the main villain. Probably not as widely used as maybe Dick Wei is, but Phillip Ko nonetheless is always still in a lot of the Kung Fu movies from the 70s to the 80s. So, and also as well, it's funny how like his new teacher gets his glasses smashed too, but they are fine when we next see him. So he covers for Yun Xia about the fight. So while studying, he makes him face the wall. So he can basically, the whole idea is his new teacher is sort of spying on their family's sort of technique and what they're practicing and things like that. And even in that first sort of 5, like even 10-15 minutes, you do get the sense this is a different Yuen Woo-ping vehicle. And like I say, this is 1982, so it's sort of, you could argue, I know it's ages ago now, but in terms of like 78 to 82, I mean, times were changing. The Hong Kong movie industry was moving quite rapidly at this point. And for Yuen Woo-ping to still do like a traditional Kung Fu movie, it was obviously something they wanted to do, something they thought they could have a go at, telling a serious story. And for the most part, the film they succeed. It really does work. So you just have to love how Ko has a thing about cracking an egg in a glass. After catching his son spying on the technique, he throws him out, and Ching Ho-shan covers for him. And this is where the film has a very good message. He tells him that without confidence and willpower, you will get nowhere. And I remember listening to that, or watching that, it might have been subtitled, I watched it the first time, but I thought that is so true. It's so true. Like, if there's no determination and you don't have like a tiny bit of confidence and faith in yourself, you're not going to get very far in this world, and that can be applied to so many things. And I think that's something that resonates very well no matter what you are doing in your life. You just need to feel worthy of what you're after. You need to feel you deserve it, and then having the willpower and strength to go and get it despite what others may think. And I think that's very, very important. Despite whatever you're trying to achieve in life, having that willpower and that energy there to go and get it despite what the naysayers say is very important. So his teacher reveals his Kung Fu technique and says, I may be able to help you, but don't tell anyone else, in terms of like training. And I love how he uses like calligraphy to teach him and gets his own back on Ko, saying, you don't like people watching you practice Kung Fu? Well, I don't like people watching me teach. Which I thought, yeah, too right. Like, you know, this guy's secret enough as it is. He's secret enough, you can be secretive too. Chang writes a letter to his master in Japan, because obviously he's Japanese, saying he just picked up most of the theory of the Ho style. So the bullies from earlier in this general catch up with Yun-ja, and he's about to beat him now. And the guy's dad like goes for him, and Chang asks him, "Why are you starting on a young boy?" And his answer, he's just like, "I will kill you both." It's one of them fights where there's not really a lot of reasoning behind it, but this, like I say, this guy's just like, "I'm just going to kill you both." Just no reasoning with some people. So not only does Cheung beat them, but he actually kills them and says he is going home, and gives Yun-ja a keepsake to sort of remember him, and tells him of a secret kung fu manual that he left in the closet. The two have obviously bonded at this point, and they pinky swear, and the film does really well at conveying that. And for the first part of the movie, it's exceptional. It is really good, really good. So now we have a time skip. The film does a time skip, a time jump, whatever you want to call it, and the whole time it has been like he's sort of spying on his father in secret, and small thing, now he's turned into Brian Leung. His father is much older too, Phillip, and he's ill, so the school gets challenged by the Eagle Claw, and this is where Yun-cha really gets to show his stuff, and just great choreography as you would expect from the Yuns. It's very much a film about honour and being respectable too. And after the guy actually goes to break his own leg, and he says to him, "Winning and losing are the same in parts of life, like, let's be friends." Like, this guy actually goes to break his own leg, like, not the other guy's leg, wants to break his own leg, and he's like, it's about sort of, you know, being the bigger person, understanding, like, having respect for one, like, your enemy, whatever it may be. So now his daddy's all impressed, and he's like, "Yep, you can carry on the family name now," because he's like, "Yep, you can fight," even though he had to go around about it in a certain way to sort of learn the kung fu and the technique. He's like, no, he's fully on board with it now. Like, you're worthy of the family name. So then the film goes a bit skew with, okay, because we go on a boat, and this scene here really doesn't advance the plot at all, right? We go into this boat, and we have Fong Hak-on here, and it's sort of like buffoonery role for a change, who is working for this foreigner, and he does like boxing, and when propositioning sort of this girl's husband at one point. Then out of nowhere, Yan turns up from under the boat and uses like his pipe against Fong. Yan, you might remember, he was in Drunken Tai Chi, he's in loads of the Yuen Woo Pings. But yeah, he comes out of nowhere, uses this pipe against Fong Hak-on, and I do love when he places this really funny bit where he places this like umbrella in this guy's braces, and he sort of winds it up like a propeller type thing, and he just lets it go, and the thing spins around really fast, and it keeps on like slapping him in the face. And watching it again now, it just still tickles me. It still makes me laugh. So Yun-ja punches the foreigner off the boat, and it was just a place that, when I say this scene goes a bit skew with, it's because it's just a comedic scene, but it just feels a bit off in contrast sort of to what's happening in the rest of the movie. It just feels a little bit sort of, oh, okay, so I know we've got to have comedy in the movie. I know that's what you come to expect from a Yuen Woo Ping movie, but it just seemed a bit thrown in there. Like, let's just have a funny scene on a boat, and it's just lacking a bit of originality. And it just like I mentioned, it just doesn't have that Yuen Woo Ping special something about it. It's still okay as a comedy scene, but it just seems a tiny bit out of place. So Phillip, his father, is like, "I want you to go and take on Molotov, the Russian boxing champion, to show him Chinese kung fu is just as good." Now, this scene here I thought was going to be a long, drawn-out fight, but he hits the boxer like twice and the fight is over. I thought it was going to be a really massive, big showdown, but yeah, it's really quick. Look out for Fong Fong here as the boxing promoter. So Sanaka, a Japanese fighter. Fong Fong, if you don't remember, I think his name's Fong Fong, if I can recall, but he's the guy. He's in Young Master. You'll know him when you see him. He's got a very unique face, but you will know the guy when you see him. So yeah, so Sanaka, a Japanese fighter, turns up at the Eagle Claw School, and they tell him to go and challenge Yun-ja if they get beat. I do love how the guy at the school says to his students, he sort of loses, though he goes like, "Yeah, but stylistically, I was the winner," which that's one way to save face in front of your students. It's like, yeah, okay, he beat me, but stylistically, I triumphed. So as always, the villains crash a birthday celebration and go in saying basically their style and their way of fighting is better. Of course, Yun-ja has to take him on. You look at the height Leung gets on some of these kicks, and it's a great showpiece and a great fight between him and Sanaka. And I love the finishing move with the hand sweep of the legs and then sort of the smash down. He like sweeps him with his hands and then like it's almost like a move from Tekken or something like that. It plays very much like a video game move, but it's really awesome. So the Japanese fighter commits seppuku at the hands of his defeat, and the guy's father says to Cheung-yan, yeah, just avenge him as he was your student, and this is an insult to Japan. So you can sort of see where it's going. Sort of his former teacher, even though they were friends, they were from two different countries. This guy's been sort of he's lost face. He's committed seppuku. Now he wants, like, the master wants Cheung-yan to go and get vengeance, and it's an insult to our country. And I do like how the film spans years. And as I mentioned, was Yuen Woo-ping, I think, trying to tell a proper story, and that might explain why the cinematography and the look of the film is very different. When I say it's different, I don't mean it's bad. I'm not trying to say this film is, it's awfully shot, the sets are absolutely shocking or anything like that. It's just very different to sort of the other work, Yuen Woo-ping's work, you would expect. Yes, it does have silly comedic moments, but lots of themes here, like I mentioned, from national pride, friendship, not making enemies, standing up for what you believe in. And it's quite a deep movie, a lot of morals to be learned from this movie. Though he does try to save, he does try to say at one point, Cheung-yan, he does try to say, look, your son was a hothead and we should forget it. And the father sort of leaves him with no choice. So Chang turns up at the Hyo school, and for some reason they've forgotten his name, unaware he's the Japanese fighter that has been announced in the newspapers. He basically has to fight Yunjia, or however you pronounce it. There's loads of different ways to say it, and I've heard loads of people say it loads of different ways. So he has to fight his former student who turns up at the Japanese school for the bout. Naturally, of course, it's a fight to the death, as you would expect. I think Woo-ping was trying to cast actors here as well as just kung fu martial arts stars. And though Brian Leung is great, it really is Kurata who has a fantastic turn in the movie. And I love when they begin to fight, he is like, stop going easy on me. And he crushes like the jade that Yunjia gave him, showing that their friendship and what they had is now broken and over. Because Leung Yan, he's sort of going easy on him. He can tell he's like, no, look, we're not playing now, like, this is happening. He crushes the jade. Look, all our promises, our pacts are now broken, the bonds are broken, let's fight properly. And like I say, there are comedy moments. I say there really isn't as many as one would expect from a Yuen Woo-ping movie. Of course, the whole film has it's got a Fist of Fury sort of type connection and vibe running through it, largely because of the character involved. And it ends with a real fast, brutal fight scene and amazing stuff from both fighters and some real ferocious intensity to it. Kurata gets beat, and we get a brief monologue at the end saying how Yunjia opened the Jinmo schools to bring kung fu to all Chinese people. And when I say the film falls short, I only mean that compared to other Woo-ping vehicles. I'm not saying, it's a bad kung fu movie, don't check it. I mean, Yuen Woo-ping, his films largely are amazingly good. Not always, but by and large, like Yuen Woo-ping's backlog, his filmography is really... When you look at what Yuen Woo-ping, when he is in the director's chair, just directing, I'm not talking about just choreographing like for other directors, I'm talking about when he's directing. There's not really a hell of a lot of films. Like there's sort of, it's only a sort of, a very sort of medium filmography, I would say. But when I say this film falls short, I'm talking about just compared to other Woo-ping movies. You have to remember this, this is a very different movie, very little in the way of slapstick, like comedic kung fu, as that's not what this film is about. But please understand, I still absolutely love this movie. There's loads to be enjoyed here, and if you are a Yuen Woo-ping fan, you have to check it out. Legend of the Fighter is definitely one I think worth checking out. I guess to me, this film, it just isn't as polished as some of his other works, but you get a great story with this one, and for the most part as a whole is played relatively straight, with that great Yuen clan fights we come to expect. I will maybe try and do a video where I maybe try and rank, I don't know, maybe 10 Yuen Woo-ping movies and see if I can put them in some sort of order, not necessarily for you guys' benefit, but just for my own benefit. If I could put them, I might omit Snake and Drunken Master, but talking about other than them to see what would rank high, probably maybe Miracle Fighters, but we'll see. But if you haven't seen Legend of the Fighter, go and check it out. But it's a very straight sort of a historical kung fu movie from Yuen Woo-ping. Not as classic to me as some of his other films, but definitely one worth checking out with a great performance from Leung Yan. So thanks very much indeed for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you again soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.